We are back from break, and we will go back. I believe we're on item 9A. Now is the time and the place for a public hearing on agenda item 9A, a recommendation of the Planning Commission and the Community Development Director that City Council conduct a public hearing and adopt an ordinance to amend the zoning designation from the Hawthorne Boulevard Pacific Coast Highway intersection area sub-district to the General Commercial District C2. So it's going to go from H-PCH to C2. In conjunction with an amendment to the boundary of the Hawthorne Boulevard Corridor Specific Plan for properties located at 3800, 3801, 3810, 3825, 3830, 3855, 3860, 3880 Pacific Coast Highway, and 24051, 24055 Nice Avenue, and determine an exemption from the California Environment Quality Act pursuant to guidelines section 15061B3. The public hearing will proceed as follows. First, a presentation by staff. Next, a presentation by the proponent with a maximum of 10 minutes, after which members of the audience may speak with a maximum of 2 minutes, 2 minutes each regarding the proposal, followed by a maximum of 5-minute rebuttal by the proponent, and finally, questions from the council. Is there a staff presentation?
Mayor, there is.
Oh, yes, Councilwoman Kalani.
I just want to disclose that I did visit the site and walk the area, but my decision will be made on everything that's presented. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. My name is Leor to the Community Development Department. The item before you is a recommendation from the Planning Commission and the Community Development Director that to approve a zone change request from the Hawthorne Boulevard Pacific Coast Highway Intersection Area Subdistrict, or HPCH zone, to the General Commercial District, or C2 zone, along with an adjustment to the boundary of the Hawthorne Boulevard Corridor Specific Plan. The request applies to 10 properties located along Pacific Coast Highway between Ocean Avenue and Nice Avenue, west of Hawthorne Boulevard. This is a legislative action and does not involve a specific development proposal. Any future redevelopment of the subject properties would require separate applications and review by the city. The purpose of the request is to reestablish the historical C2 zoning designation, resolve legal nonconforming conditions affecting several properties, and enable reinvestment in aging buildings, site improvements, while allowing properties to adapt to evolving market conditions. The zone change follows the completion of major roadway improvements at the intersection of Pacific Coast Highway and Hawthorne Boulevard, and would restore a corridor-based zoning framework that reflects the functional geography and established development pattern of Pacific Coast Highway. As discussed in the staff report, the request has been evaluated for consistency with the general plan, compatibility with surrounding land uses, and alignment with the established development pattern along the commercial corridor. Based on this analysis, the Planning Commission and the Community Development Director find that the proposed zone change supports the ordered development of the city and recommend that the City Council approve the request. Mayor, that concludes the presentation. I'm available to answer any questions along with the applicant following their presentation.
Thank you, Leo. We will now take public comment on this matter. Oh, I didn't even notice. Okay. Is there a presentation by the proponent? I thought you were just a member of the audience.
Oh, yeah. No, thank you, staff, and thank you, council, for hearing of this one. My name is Robert Priest with Design UA. We're the architects and engineers hired by McDonald's, which is on at 3880 Pacific Coast Highway. We brought this to staff a couple of years ago, and it's been a little bit, but just working through the different pieces and the kind of reasonings behind why we're doing it. There's not a specific project for that exact property just yet, but looking at the age of the building and some of the non-conforming use that's there, that's what led us to the conversations with staff to see what options are. The biggest thing for us, there's a lot of drive-through stacking that affects traffic on PCH. That's one of the biggest nightmares of that project. And based on the current zoning, we can't do anything to try to fix that. So this is one of the steps to help us try to look at that property and what it's doing, so we can ultimately try to remedy some of the issues that it's having for the business and also for the city and the public. So any questions, again, I'm here as well. So thank you very much to staff, Planning Commission for getting it here, and now for you all at the council. So thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. And now we'll take public comments on this matter. If there are any members of the public who wish to speak, you have 2 minutes per speaker. City Clerk, has anyone signed up? Okay. It's interesting, as I look across the chamber, I think it's mostly staff members. That's why I thought the gentleman was the only public speaker. Okay, then does any members of the council have any questions? Please click in. Councilman Gerson.
I did not have to visit the area because I frequented the area. Half of it's in my district, and half of it, I believe, is Mr. Matucci's district. No, my only disclosure is that during my regular meeting with the assistant city manager, I did have the opportunity to discuss this and understand it and in greater timeline, and I appreciate his knowledge in that area. And I'm happy to hear you bring up the drive-through, because many a times it's not a very convenient drive-through to get to. So I look forward to seeing how those improvements go. But no, so that's, I guess my simple disclosures are I know the area well because I frequent that area both sides. But I'm ready to make my decision.
All right, thank you. Councilman Shate.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I did visit the property as well, but I forgot to disclose earlier, but I will make my decision based on the material provided. Just one request for the staff. I understand this does not constitute the spot zoning, but if you could, for public awareness, can you elaborate a little bit why this is not considered as spot zoning, please?
That is correct, Councilmember. The proposed zone change was submitted or requested by a private property owner among the 10 parcels that are being considered this evening for the zone change request. Because the properties are contiguous, several on the south side of PCH and several on the north side as well, that itself would not constitute spot zoning, which would be typically seen as or observed one particular parcel that is not consistent with other zoning designations in the area or compatible with other surrounding uses, or perhaps even inconsistency with the general plan.
All right, thank you for the clarification.
Any other questions from the members of the council? I don't see any. I'll take a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Start voting, please. Your Honor, that motion carried unanimously.
Thank you. City Clerk, may I have a number and title, please?
Yes, Your Honor, this is ordinance number 3965, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Torrance, California, providing for a zone change pursuant to Division 9, Chapter 6, Article 1 of the Torrance Municipal Code from the Hawthorne Boulevard, Pacific Coast Highway intersection area, sub-district H-PCH, to the General Commercial District C-2 in conjunction with an amendment to the boundary of the Hawthorne Boulevard Corridor Specific Plan, HBCSP, for properties located at 3800, 3801, 3810, 3825, 3830, 3855, 3860, 3880 Pacific Coast Highway, and 24051 and 24055 Nice Avenue.
Go ahead.
So adopt ordinance 3965. Determine the project is exempt from CEQA and approve the ordinance summary for publication.
Second.
Start voting, please. Your Honor, that motion carried unanimously.
Thank you. Now is the time and place for a public hearing on agenda item 9B. Conduct the first public hearing on proposed fiscal year 2026 or 2027 operating budget and capital improvement program. Is there a staff presentation?
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council, Ian Daly, Finance Director. Tonight I'll be presenting an overview of the fiscal year 2026-27 operating budget and capital improvement plan that marks the second year of our two-year budget. The budget document itself was made available publicly on the Finance website on Friday, April 24th. In addition to publishing online, a copy of the budget was made available at the City Clerk's public counter on Monday, April 27th. Before we dive in, I'd like to take a moment to express my gratitude for those involved. First, thank you to Mayor and City Council for engaging with staff by setting budget priorities for staff to prioritize in the document before you tonight. Second, thank you to all department heads and their respective teams for engaging with the Finance Department on the months-long effort to produce this year's budget. Their engagement led to over 30 formal meetings and countless follow-up conversations to ensure the highest level of quality and accuracy. Additionally, I would like to thank City Manager Sparian, Assistant City Manager Santana for their support and guidance along the way. And finally, last but certainly not least, for Finance, I'd like to thank the Budget and Revenue teams, along with now Pablon, for helping keep it all on track, for their hard work, their commitment, and the many extra hours required to get this document completed. Next slide. In an effort to advance and improve upon our community engagement, the budget team worked closely with the city manager's communication team to publish a 4-part series providing the community with some helpful budget information and promoting the upcoming annual budget process. In total, over 13,000 views were garnered, and by leveraging Zen City, we can see that 97% of the sentiment is positive. An AI-generated summary from Zen City was shared with the City Council in advance of this presentation to highlight the sentiment. Next slide. Before we dive into the coming fiscal year's budget, capital plan, and 10-year projection, I would first like to highlight some of the major budget accomplishments for the city since the pandemic. This list is long, and what is included in this presentation is not all-inclusive, but we felt it important to highlight as the city closes this chapter and embarks on its post-pandemic path forward. In October of 2020, the city leveraged historically low interest rates to issue $349.5 million in lease revenue bonds to effectively refinance our unfunded liability with CalPERS. In doing this, the city was able to swap one debt at 7%, the CalPERS discount rate at the time, with a rate of 3.43% through the bond offering. In doing so, the city was able to free up between $9.5 and $12.9 million worth of recurring savings each year throughout the life of the bonds. Through the current fiscal year, this equates to $60.9 million in budget savings to the city. In April of 2021, the city took another action, which was refinancing the city's 2014 certificates of participation. In doing so, the city was able to front load about $4 million worth of savings without extending the repayment term. The city also implemented its own emergency transport program, which was previously outsourced. In doing so, this provides a net budget benefit of about $4 million annually. In addition to the previously mentioned budget benefit, the program has provided a prime recruitment pipeline for new firefighters. Next slide. In fiscal year 2020-21, the city implemented franchise fees on its own utility operations, namely sanitation, sewer, and water began paying a 2% franchise fee to the general fund, generating approximately $1.5 million each year. In June of 22, Torrance voters approved a half-cent transaction and use tax, dubbed Measure Safe Strong Torrance. This measure generates approximately $27 million each year. Through the current fiscal year, it has supported public safety staffing in the amount of $46.2 million and contributed $16.4 million towards capital improvements. All told, the fund has brought in $95.6 million and ensured that the Torrance everyone has come to know and appreciate is maintained. When the city issued the 2020 lease revenue bonds, its bond rating dropped to a AA with a negative outlook. As a result of the steadfast commitment to fiscal responsibility by Mayor and City Council, the city was able to restore its AA status with a stable outlook. In addition to this outcome, the city continues to implement AAA-rated bond strategies to ensure the city continues to grow in this area. Next slide. During the pandemic, staff vacancies soared to about 300 citywide. To combat this trend and stabilize the workforce, the city invested heavily by committing to multi-year labor agreements. This allowed for staffing levels to moderate from about those 300 vacancies I just mentioned to about 190 today. To further help the police department, an aggressive recruitment and retention incentive program was implemented, costing over $3 million annually. The city has also contracted with a third-party vendor to assist with business license compliance services. In doing so, the city has been able to generate about $900,000 in additional business license tax revenues, of which 181 is about a recurring amount each year. Additionally, the City Council approved a series of rate increases for the sanitation, sewer, and water funds between January 2023 and January 2025 to ensure that revenues are sufficient to meet operational and capital demands. Next slide. In 2026, the City Council took action implementing a community facilities district and annexed its first property accordingly. This action will ensure that new developments pay their fair share for the recurring operational demands they create. The city has also prioritized capital improvements at a rate not done before. Between the city's general fund and Measure SST, over $25 million has been spent, with an additional $70 million committed to projects. To ensure that the city has multiple levels of protection from a fiscal resiliency perspective, a pension trust fund was established in 2020 and has built a balance of just under $41 million to protect the city from rising pension costs. Next slide. In addition to the pension trust fund, the city has grown its economic anomaly fund from nearly nothing in 2020 to $68.9 million as of last June. This would not have been possible without the assistance of Measure SST, the American Rescue Plan Act, and the many decisions by Mayor and City Council explained in these slides. As a result of all of the aforementioned activities, this has allowed the city to build its citywide cash and investment portfolio from a low in October of 2020 of $87.2 million to $392.7 million as of February 2026, a remarkable transformation. As such, the city's financial key performance indicators have improved, with 6 currently falling in the green category, up from 2 5 years prior. Next slide. During this period, the city was able to also fully fund its IT asset replacement fund. This has allowed for a recent purchase of $1.5 million worth of tough books for the police department, and will also facilitate the purchase of public safety radios planned for fiscal year 27-28. In addition to the IT asset replacement fund, the city also fully funded its vehicle replacement funds. Across the fleet, sanitation, sewer, and water funds, this has allowed for approximately 270 vehicles to be replaced, with about $51 million spent in total, as broken down on this slide, excluding transit bus purchases. This significant investment in our city's fleet provides staff with the equipment needed to be effective in carrying out service delivery with these new vehicles seen throughout the community. Next slide. The aforementioned slides have been provided as a summary recap of the many critical decisions made by Mayor and City Council to ensure the stability of the city of Torrance. As a result of these actions, the city has returned itself to a resilient position fiscally and is well poised to take on the next chapter. In transitioning to the coming fiscal year, we'd like to set the stage with the first few slides intended to provide a quick synopsis of the state of the city's budget and things being closely monitored before we review the details. As noted, staff's overall outlook remains cautious as we enter this budget cycle, which will be expanded upon throughout this presentation. Overall, the recommended budget provides a path of structural balance over the 10-year projection timeline. This is achieved in the near term by relying on the accumulated balance in the city's pension trust fund to smooth the rising cost of pensions, nearly returning it to its current balance at the end of the 10-year period. The general fund's economic anomaly reserve, as recommended in the proposed budget, is in compliance with the City Council's fiscal policy and is projected to grow every year in the 10-year projection. And the city's revenue trend KPI continues to fall in the yellow category for the second year. The city's revenue trend KPI monitors general fund revenue growth, controlled for inflation and one-time revenues each year. Due to underperformance the last 2 years, staff are recommending conservative revenue projections in the coming budget cycle. Staff have observed early signs of sales tax revenue stabilization in the current fiscal year after experiencing annual declines since fiscal year 21-22. The city continues to balance these strains on revenue growth, ensuring that strategic investments in critical infrastructure can continue. Next slide. In the broader economy, part of staff's cautious sentiment relates to recent tariff activity, geopolitical uncertainty, and their immediate impact on financial markets. As of today, the S&P 500 is up over 5% and the Dow Jones is up nearly 2%. That's calendar year to date. This is after the S&P just grew 9% and the Dow Jones grew 5% in the last 30 days. These types of market volatilities have a direct impact on the city's pension plan, which relies on an expected 6.8% growth each fiscal year. For every 1% in deviation from the expected discount rate, it impacts the city's contribution by about $2 million annually when fully ramped up. Inflation, more specifically the Personal Consumption Expenditure Index, the key benchmark for the Federal Reserve, continues to remain elevated. As of March 2026, due to spikes in fuel costs, this sits at 3.5%, well above the Fed's target of 2%. There have been a number of articles noting layoffs and even bankruptcies in the private sector due to overall economic headwinds. With that said, business vacancies continue to be filled and community development processed $173 million worth of permit valuations in 2025. It's also worth noting locally, as shown in the news and on social media, neighboring cities are having budget challenges, showing up deficits in their own cities' budgets. Next slide. As mentioned on the prior slide, the outcomes of investment performance are a significant influence on the city's budget. After a significantly high year in fiscal year 2021, the fund realized a loss of 7.5%. This negative outcome, in a year when a positive 6.8% was expected, has an adverse effect on the city's finances. The result of CalPERS Public Employee Retirement Fund, also known as PERF, have a delayed reaction. For example, the fiscal year 21-22 loss of 7.5% affects the city's contribution starting in fiscal year 24-25, ramping up over 5 years, amortized for 20. With fiscal year 24-25 ending at 12.1%, based on investment performance exceeding the discount rate in recent years, coupled with market volatility this year, staff are conservatively projecting investment returns for the PERF for the coming 10-year period. Next slide. As shown on this slide, pension and pension-related debt continue to rise in the 10-year projection. As shown in the area noted with a 1, the city's pension costs are rising here as a result of the fiscal year 21-22 losses. To smooth these increases, the recommended budget is relying temporarily on the pension trust fund to shave the peak, as denoted by the line labeled number 2. Next slide. Now we will transition to the current year's budget cycle. This slide highlights the city's typical budget development timeline and major milestones. The city's budget process is very time-intensive on staff, involving all departments, and generally lasts about 6 months. Tonight marks the first public hearing on the budget document, with the second public hearing taking place May 19th, and the third and final public hearing taking place on June 9th, the same night where City Council will approve the necessary resolutions to implement the fiscal year 26-27 budget. Next slide. As staff work through the budget development steps, there are key items that shape the direction of the budget as it is assembled. The first is the Finance and Governmental Operations Committee, which conducts its first quarter and mid-year budget review reports. These reports are particularly valuable at setting an accurate and realistic revenue budget, as the proposed budget is based on these projections rather than the current year's budget, to make sure revenues are as accurate as possible. In addition to these meetings, there are 3 core guiding principles that set the financial framework for staff. These include the city's 10-year strategic plan, the council adopted budget priorities for the current year, and the city's 10 financial key performance indicators. Staff have ensured that the recommended financial plan before your honorable body prioritizes this framework. Next slide. As just mentioned, monitoring our 10 financial key performance indicators is key to providing staff with objective outcomes relative to the city's benchmarks. The city has made significant progress since fiscal year 21, where 2 of the 10 metrics were in the green category. As of fiscal year 25, the most recently audited fiscal year, 6 of the metrics are in the green category, and most notably, the revenue trends continues to fall in the yellow category. As shown on this slide, the capital asset condition metrics has been restored to the green category, as shown by the green arrow labeled number 1. However, unfortunately, as previously mentioned, the revenue trends category continues to fall in the yellow category, as shown by the red arrow labeled number 2. As a direct result of these outcomes in fiscal year 24-25, staff are prioritizing conservative revenue estimates to ensure the city remains on a strong fiscal path going forward. Next slide. On this slide, we provide the details behind the revenue trends KPI, since it has fallen in the yellow category for 2 years. As you can see, revenue growth, after controlling for inflation, has moderated, with FY 23-24 growing by 1.4% and fiscal year 24-25 by 0% above inflation. Next slide. The city is currently monitoring four areas of focus, which have been prioritized over the last few years. The city has made incremental progress addressing certain items, which have allowed them to be closed out, while others will remain open focus for many years to come because of the scale and scope to resolve them. The city continues to make incremental progress on the self-insurance funds funded status, ending fiscal year 24-25 at 34.6%, up from 18.6% in FY 2021. As for labor trends, the city continues to be challenged here, with an elevated level of turnover being experienced. While progress has been made in this area, it will continue to be monitored closely. The city continues to closely monitor and prioritize investments in city facilities and parks through both the operating and capital improvement plan budgets. Staff are actively working through a library needs assessment and recommending additional funding to support a parks master plan. These two efforts will help evaluate current library services and chart out the future of the city's parks, including capital investments required over the years. Additionally, staff continue to monitor and manage the city's overall pension and OPEB liabilities, and this is an area that will remain a focus for many years to come. Next slide. Finally, the city can monitor several economic indicators to help plan out the city's finances in a prudent and conservative manner. As we're all aware, the Fed began leveraging its monetary policy in March 2022 to try and temper the economy and cool inflation trends. After increasing rates, a series of downward adjustments were made, with the federal funds rate currently sitting in the range of 3.5 to 3.75% as of December 2025. The Fed monitors the Personal Consumption Expenditure Index, targeting a 2% figure, though inflation has been persistent, with this rate spiking to 3.5% as of March. Real GDP continues to grow at a steady rate, with the latest quarter growing 2.3% compared with the same period the year prior. And in the labor market, we see unemployment rates fairly steady over time. Nationally, unemployment sits at 4.4%, California at 5.4%, and locally Torrance sitting at 4.8%. Next slide, please. Now we'll begin to map out the overall framework of this year's budget, taking into consideration the different factors, including the strategic plan, budget priorities, key performance indicators, areas of focus, and underlying economic factors. The city continues to experience high levels of development, as previously mentioned, with the Community Development Department processing $173 million in permit valuations in 2025. This strong development continues to provide a stable revenue base through increased property taxes. Additionally, the city's Technology Governance Committee continues to provide policy direction and oversight of citywide IT initiatives. A primary focus of this group is tackling the city's use of artificial intelligence in city operations. Staff are currently reviewing draft policies to leverage and implement them citywide. While that happens, AI solutions are being explored, with a recent vendor demonstration having taken place. And the city is also in the process of implementing an AI-enabled chatbot to support the city's website. In August 2024, the city conducted a statistically valid survey to help staff understand how people like to consume information from the city. This survey prompted a cross-departmental effort to implement a new city website, with the first phase implemented yesterday. The remaining 2 phases will be implemented in calendar year 2026. City continues to make strides in the areas of homelessness in the city, with the city's 3290 temporary housing village successfully transitioning 108 individuals into permanent housing. The police department continues to work closely with the California Department of Justice on collaborative reform. The department has onboarded a monitor who will serve as a liaison between the city and the California DOJ as they work through the items in the collaborative reform agreement. With elevated rates of turnover and an aging workforce, organizational resiliency and building the next wave of leadership is critical to delivering consistent, high-quality services to residents and businesses. The city's Mary Kay Giordano Leadership Academy has graduated over 100 employees across all departments, creating a shared foundation of leadership, collaboration, and innovation. The city's Management Assistant Program has also emerged as one of the city's most successful workforce development initiatives, with participants placed across more than a dozen departments. And finally, the city continues to support the Del Amo Fashion Center through the Youth Supervision Program at the mall. This program has improved safety at the mall, costing about $1.1 million annually, and this is an area staff continue to explore on potential cost recovery options. Next slide. Listed on this slide are a series of budget efficiencies and structural changes included in the proposed budget. The proposed budget includes the centralization of legal services costs within the city attorney's office. Historically, these budgets had been dispersed in individual departments requiring legal services. The agreements and their purchase orders are overseen by the city attorney's office. However, under the prior model, it required coordination with departments to move budgets around, making it inefficient. This change will help streamline the process, holding the budgets in one place. Additionally, for the city's proprietary funds, which includes internal service and enterprise funds, they will no longer include commitments to the capital improvement plan in the operating transfers out classification. This historical practice overstated expenditures because investments and capital improvements are actually recorded through the depreciation line over its useful life. This will provide the city council and public with a better view of the current state of the city's funds. Historically, ground leases surrounding the airport were accounted for in the airport fund, and then the net proceeds were transferred to the general fund. Since the activities of the airport, commonly referred to as inside the fence, are the reason an airport fund exists, the budget will now be reflected accordingly. The revenues and expenditures of the airport fund will purely be reflective of the airport's inside the fence operations, and the land leases outside the fence will be reflected directly in the general fund. Finally, the proposed budget includes rent charge assessment changes for the airport fund, treating it consistent with all other enterprise operations occupying city land, along with the transit fund paying to temporarily occupy the corner parcel of Crenshaw and 208th to build a temporary parking lot during the parking structure's construction. Next slide. In addition to prioritizing the city's 10 financial key performance indicators, the city council policy is a primary focus in developing the budget as well. The city council economic anomaly reserve policy states that a balance of at least 20% should be maintained. The proposed budget before your honorable body recommends an increase of $1 million during the fiscal year, setting the balance at $69.9 million or 21.6%. As part of this year's budget, staff are recommending a new policy, a general fund capital contribution policy. Based on state and national comparisons, this is a common practice among some AAA rated cities. Staff are recommending that the policy be set at 5%, striving to 7.5% of general fund operating fund revenues. This policy is aimed at providing an objective contribution minimum to ensure the city's assets are prioritized sufficiently. The proposed budget is unable to achieve this policy immediately, but does so by year 9 of the 10-year projection. Included in the recommended budget is a contribution of $11.6 million, which translates to a contribution rate of 3.6%. Next slide. With that, we'll now transition to the proposed operating budget for the city. To refresh memories, the city's budget breaks down into 5 main fund classification types listed on this slide. The general fund, enterprise funds, and internal service funds house the bulk of city operations are what will be highlighted in the coming slides. Next slide. First, I'd like to take a minute to break down the city's general fund and how the different budgets within it function. Within the general fund, the city breaks it down into 4 components as shown on this slide. The left side, denoted by the darker blue, includes the operating fund and measure SST funds. These 2 funds function like the city's checking accounts, funding day-to-day operations for the city. With the right side, denoted by the lighter blue, including the restricted and assigned funds. These two funds function like the city's savings accounts, largely where we set money aside for future use. For example, the city's pension trust fund is housed under the restricted fund, and the economic anomaly reserve is under the assigned fund. Next slide. On this slide, we are showing the breakdown of the revenue budget by fund classification. As shown here, the general fund is the largest at $359.8 million, followed by enterprise funds at $145.1 million, and internal service funds at $44.1 million. Next slide. On this slide, we're examining the largest fund of the general fund, more specifically the general fund operating fund, one of the city's checking accounts we just talked about. As shown here, the city's largest revenue classification, taxes, is projected to grow by just over $1.7 million or 0.8%, as shown in the box denoted with a 1. As a result of the aforementioned changes in the accounting for the outside the fence operations with the airport, this is the main reason we are seeing such fluctuations in the boxes denoted by a 2 and a 3. The use of money and property classification is increasing because of directly recognizing lease payment revenues in the general fund as opposed to a net transfer from the airport fund. Next slide. As shown on this slide, we're diving in a layer further, and we can see the drivers of change within the taxes classification shown on the prior slide. As you can see, property tax continues to outperform sales tax. As shown in the box denoted by a 1, the recommended property tax budget sits at $74.2 million, while the sales tax budget is recommended at $63.2 million. Now an $11 million delta between the two, when sales tax exceeded property tax back in fiscal year 22-23. The largest driver of change for the city's property tax base pertains to the turnover of properties being bought and sold throughout the year, coupled with some of the recent developments completed and underway. On the other side of the coin, as shown in the other red box denoted with a 2, the recommended budget for utility users tax is declining by $2 million or 4.6%, driven by reductions in gas consumption at the refinery and continued declines in the cellular category. Next slide. On this slide, we can see the interaction of the general fund's 3 largest revenue streams. That's property tax, sales tax, and utility users tax, dating back to fiscal year 21-22. As shown on this chart, the blue line, which represents sales tax, has been effectively flat, with fiscal year 26-27 revenue budget being placed at $63.2 million, which is actually below the outcomes in fiscal year 21-22, which totaled $63.6 million. During the same time frame, property taxes continue to perform strongly, growing from $59.6 million in fiscal year 21-22 to the $74.2 million figure in fiscal year 26-27. Despite the headwinds on the sales tax front, Torrance continues to perform strong compared to others. When looking at Los Angeles County, Torrance is the 3rd largest sales tax producer compared with other cities, falling only behind the city of Los Angeles and Long Beach. If you zoom out further across the entire state, Torrance is ranked in the top 5% of all cities, coming in at 22. We are seeing similar outcomes on the property tax side as well. Overall, Torrance continues to rank 8th in Los Angeles County, consistent with prior years. With that said, Torrance's assessed value grew at a higher rate than its peers, ranking 5th in assessed value growth for the calendar year 25. This indicates Torrance is on a path of improving its property tax ranking over time. Finally, with utility users tax, aside from the spike in fiscal year 22-23, this revenue stream has degraded over time, placing strain on the trajectory of the city's general fund budget. All in all, looking across all general fund revenues, we are seeing growth rates in the area of 6% per year over this time frame. Next slide. Now we'll transition to the expenditure side of the budget. On this slide, we show a pie chart of citywide expenditures highlighting the main fund classification buckets, with the general fund being the largest at $367.6 million, followed by enterprise funds at $137.7 million, and the internal service funds third at 41.4 million. Next slide, please. On this side, we can see the interaction of general fund expenditures over time, with the blue line representing salaries and benefits, the orange line representing non-wage costs, and the gray line the sum of the two. First, we'll look at the salaries and employee benefits in the red line denoted by number 1. As shown here, the city's commitment to multi-year labor agreements triggered an uptick starting in fiscal year 24-25. This investment in multi-year labor agreements was aimed at stabilizing the city's workforce, which spiked to 300 vacancies, and to address targeted adjustments to compensation across several classifications and labor groups to be more competitive with other agencies. As shown with the orange line, first touching on number 2, the rise between those 2 years was a result of the city addressing the city's self-insurance and fleet services budgets and stabilizing those. Since that time, as shown by the line labeled number 3, those have been stable over the multiple years. Next slide. On this slide, we have the major funds and their budgeted net surpluses or deficits. I won't go through every single one in the interest of time, but all of them are explained in detail on the budget book of page 21 of the budget book. The general fund operating fund is proposed to strategically utilize $2 million of its accumulated unassigned fund balance. This use of unassigned fund balance is recommended to jumpstart a newly established sidewalk replacement program in the city's capital improvement plan, aimed at improving the condition of city sidewalks and to help mitigate future liability. The general fund restricted fund is proposed to decrease by $7.6 million to help smooth the rise in the city's pension payments, which are projected to peak in fiscal year 28-29. All other funds are budgeted to break even or operate with a surplus except for the city's transit fund. The transit fund's budget includes a deficit of $6 million. This is most largely attributable to the depreciation expense entry found in the fund, which is offset through federal grants found outside of the operating budget. These grants fund the department's purchase of buses and are the offset to this depreciation expense. After controlling for this, the deficit actually sits at $1.3 million. This marks significant progress from the current net budget deficit of $4.9 million. This will continue to be an area of focus in the coming budget cycles to ensure long-term stability for the fund. Next slide. On this slide, we're looking at recommended FTE counts from the perspective of the departments. As shown here, it is recommended that citywide FTE counts go down by 9.2 FTE, generating $926,000 in recurring savings, as shown by the green arrow on this slide. The details of these changes will be covered on the following slides, and additionally can also be found on starting on page 89 of the budget document. Next slide. Within the city manager's office, the department's recommending to separate the current management associate classification into 2 separate and distinct tiers titled management associate and senior management associate as a retention tool and to provide internal growth opportunities. Next slide. In the community services department, they are recommending the addition of a landscape architect to help accelerate the delivery of projects at various city parks, which is partially offset by reducing budgets that leveraged outside vendors for this support. Next slide. In the finance department, it's recommended that the accountant and senior accountant classifications be merged together as a retention tool and to provide internal growth opportunities. In addition to merging the titles, 2 are recommended to be set up in a new classification that better represents their duties as auditors in the organization, and finally 1 to be retitled to revenue supervisor, another new classification mirroring the accounting division and to better represent the supervision component of the role. Next slide. In general services, due to a recent retirement, it's recommended that an accounting technician be removed from the budget and workload be redistributed among general services and finance. Next slide. In information technology, a series of changes are recommended as part of a reorganization to establish a deputy IT director. City Council previously approved the new classification on April 7th, and the remaining portion of the program modification is included in the proposed budget. Next slide. For Public Works, it's recommended that an associate engineer position be converted to a traffic engineer to better support more specialized traffic division needs in the department. Next slide. And finally, in the Transit Fund and Transit Department, it's recommended that a series of vacant positions be removed as staff work to balance the fund's overall budget, as denoted on this slide. Next slide. In addition to the changes with respect to positions, additional changes are recommended in the non-wage category of the budget. On this slide, we show a high-level summary of general fund changes with the details shown in the budget document on page 92. In the city manager's office, increases to the non-wage budget are recommended to further enhance land lease audits. For the city treasurer's office, $25K is included to provide third-party oversight. In fire, the budget is increasing by $475,000 to address changes in the public provider ground emergency transport program. However, this change results in $800,000 in additional revenue. In IT, there is $30,000 for managed print services and an additional $501,000 to fund the new computer-aided dispatch software's recurring costs. And finally, in Public Works, $500,000 included for citywide sidewalk ramping and grinding to complement the newly proposed capital program that will replace damaged sidewalks. Next slide. Outside of the general fund are a few notable adjustments, including a reduction of $430,000 in Section 8 due to the discontinuation of the emergency housing voucher program, an addition of $100,000 in sanitation for route reviews and GPS software, and a reduction of $1.7 million in the transit fund due to the Connect Torrance program being covered by a CMAQ grant for 2 years. Next slide. Next, we'll review the general fund's budget with respect to various subsidies, highlighting only those with changes. As shown next to the green arrow, a budget of $20,000 is being added to fund the City Yard Open House, which happens every other year. Additionally, the 4th of July budget is being increased to address Council's recent direction with respect to the fireworks show celebrating America's 250th, and all other subsidies remain unchanged. Next slide. Now we'll transition to the city's capital improvement plans highlights. As an entire city, we have more than $1 billion worth of assets, and with them over 50% depreciated. The amount of investment required to address deficiencies in city assets, such as the fire stations, libraries, and parks, continues to exceed the city's ability to pay, requiring much-needed projects to be deferred. Despite these challenges, staff are prioritizing investments in parks and facilities at amounts not seen in the past, with the recommended general fund capital contribution policy aimed at ensuring minimum contributions are made. Next slide. In fiscal year 23-24, a building index study was completed, highlighting a minimum investment required over the next 10 years of $205 million. Expanded exploration and leveraging of grant opportunities and debt mechanisms will definitely be critical areas to leverage. However, it's important to note that while the city has capacity to issue debt with its assets as collateral, the impact this has on the budget needs to be closely monitored. The issuance of debt creates a long-term fixed cost with very little ability for the city to augment this cost. One of our financial KPIs follows this exact metric. It's called debt burden, to make sure the city isn't overly constrained by fixed costs. This KPI sets a goal of total open debt balances, excluding pension-related debt, being at or below 40% of citywide revenues. Currently, the city is at a 32.8% ratio as of June 2025, leaving a 7.2% gap, which is equivalent to about $38 million. Finally, the capital improvement plan includes additional funding to allow the city to conduct its first comprehensive parks master plan effort. This will be a community engagement-based report that inventories all of our parks, their condition, and where the community wants to see these in the future and associated costs with doing so. Only some of these costs were included in the building index study, and this will provide a broader view of the capital demands being placed on the organization with our current makeup of buildings, parks, and community spaces. Next slide. To summarize and remind everybody, these few slides are familiar, but the building index study evaluated over 100 assets. In addition, the city has an inventory of 47 playgrounds across 29 of our 33 parks, with 3 of them being fully accessible through rubberized surfaces and the others leveraging sand, engineered wood fiber chips, or a combination of rubber and the previously mentioned surfaces. With over 100 assets, sheer age is a significant component and driver of cost, with assets in the critical stage built on average in 1956, 1969 for poor, and 1974 for fair. While investments continue to be made and projects advance, it is anticipated that additional discussion will be needed as the sheer cost, scope, and magnitude of the city's capital commitments are weighed against the city's ability to afford. Next slide. The building index study assigned a score to each of our assets, ranging from A, good, to D, critical. As shown here on this slide, the bulk of our assets fall in the middle, with the poor category receiving the highest frequency at 56 assets, indicating a significant backlog of deferred maintenance. Next slide. On this slide, we highlight the overall capital improvement plan for all funds and all project types. The full details of the city's capital plan and every project recommended behind this summary figure can be seen starting on page 167 of the budget book. The first item I would like to highlight is found in the red box denoted by number 1. As shown here, the city has committed budgets totaling $74.5 million to our city parks and buildings, a significantly higher amount than in prior years. In the red box denoted with number 2, this has been highlighted because it is recommended that the new sidewalk repair program, funded by the general fund, will invest $11 million in the upcoming capital improvement plan aimed at improving sidewalk conditions and mitigating future liability to the city. Finally, in the last red box denoted by number 3, we are seeing significant investments in our city's IT infrastructure through projects such as the Enterprise Resource Planning System replacement at a project budget of $6.1 million, the computer-aided dispatch project at $2.3 million, and the records management system project at $2.5 million. In total, over the 5-year period and all funding sources, about $286 million is recommended. Next slide. Now we'll expand upon 2 project type areas, specifically parks and facilities. For parks, the full detail of all projects, their funding sources, and scope can be found starting on page 172 of the budget document. Of note, as shown in the red box denoted with a 1, $6 million is planned for Columbia Park's Phase 2 of the full overhaul focused on turf soccer fields, with $7.8 million slated for El Nido to fully fund the balance of the project as a joint effort with TUSD. As shown in the red box denoted with a 2, an additional $220,000 is being added to Gunzer Park to fully fund the walking path replacement. For Torrance Park, outlined with the red box denoted with a number 3, funding is included for design and construction of improvements at that location as well. And finally, as shown in the last box denoted with a 4, $1.5 million included for Walteria Park and Library to design that location for a full renovation. Next slide. Now examining the capital improvement plan related to city's facilities further. The full detail of all projects, their funding sources, and scope can be found starting on page 177 of the budget document. As shown in the first box denoted with the number 1, 2 significant renovations are included for fire stations 2 and 5 with budgets of $3.1 million and $2.1 million respectively. As shown in the second box denoted with the number 2, the Southeast Library is slated for a $1.3 million renovation and Katie Geiser as a $1 million lighting project. At the Torrance Municipal Airport, in the red box denoted with number 3, the fiscal year 26-27 and 27-28 budgets include projects to renovate the GAC as well as airport hangars. And finally, at the Torrance Regional Transit Center, shown in the red box denoted by number 4, significant budgets are included to construct a parking structure and complete the build out of tenant spaces in the building. Next slide. Well, we've covered many projects underway. I wanted to take a brief moment to go through a few slides to make sure we highlight some of the completed projects from the past year. Some of these projects have been shown in the first quarter and mid-year budget review reports, but wanted to make sure that we highlight them to the full city council and the broader community. As shown on this slide is a median improvement along Madrona Avenue. Next slide, please. Here is another median improvement along Hawthorne Boulevard. Next slide, please. A significant investment was made in downtown, completing the Cabrillo Ave median project shown here on this slide. Next slide, please. Public Works completed the second and final phase of ballast rock installations around the railroad tracks near downtown Torrance to improve the street appeal in the area. This is a view looking north along Sartori, just north of Torrance Boulevard. Next slide. Also in downtown, while not a building or park specifically, the city's effort to beautify through its signage and wayfinding project is highlighted here. Next slide. At City Hall, general services were hard at work, completing a major renovation of the building and safety area shown on this slide. Next slide. And within the West Annex, renovations were completed in the IT area as shown here. Next slide, please. Fire Station 1 recently completed its Department Emergency Operations Center, shown here with furniture just arriving today. Actually received the pictures a little too late. I couldn't put them in the slides. Wanted to have them in there, but nonetheless, here's the completed space. Next slide. Some improvements were made at various park locations. This slide was highlighting some improvements with the Hickory Park restroom. Next slide. And this slide covering the airport's restroom renovation as well. Next slide, please. As part of the city's effort to continue beautification efforts and improve communications with the public, 3 new digital signs were installed throughout the city as shown here. Next slide. On this slide, we highlight a key project, the Torrance School Safety and Accessibility Program, prioritizing the areas of Fern and Seaside Elementary Schools. Next slide. On this slide, we highlight the new traffic signal installed by Public Works at the intersection of Lomita and Madison Street, which just went into service in February of 2026. Next slide, please. Some community services efforts. Here we have improvements recently completed at the City Hall campus to improve landscaping. Next slide. Here at the Southeast Library, additional landscape improvements as well. Next slide, please. All right, so now we'll transition to the city's general fund 10-year projection, bringing everything discussed in the presentation together in one snapshot. As shown in the first red box denoted by number 1, in the near term, the general fund's budget is relying on accumulated balances in the face of rising pension costs and high demand on capital projects. This is temporary in nature during the 10-year projection and reverses with the balances growing on the tail end. As shown in the second red box, denoted by number 2, in fiscal years 26-27 and 27-28, it is recommended that a portion of the unassigned fund balance be committed to various capital projects. In fiscal year 26-27, the $2 million figure relates to the newly recommended citywide sidewalk replacement program. In fiscal year 27-28, the use of unassigned fund balance is attributable to funding the El Nido Park project, additional funding needed at Columbia Park for completing the new turf fields, along with the previously mentioned sidewalk replacement program. The third box, denoted by number 3, shows the projected balance of the city's pension trust fund over the 10-year period. Consistent with last year's 10-year projection, to smooth the rising pension costs on the front end of the 10-year, this fund's projected balance will hit $5.6 million in fiscal year 31 and climb back to nearly its current projected balance by the end. In the fourth box, we highlight the city's Economic Anomaly Reserve Fund, which is projected to grow every year in the city's 10-year projection, an improvement over the year prior. As shown in the projection, the fund's balance grows from $69.9 million at the end of fiscal year 26-27 to $96.9 million in fiscal year 2035-36. This means the city's economic anomaly reserve ratio will grow from 21.6% to 24% by the end of the 10-year projection. Next slide. To bring it all back full circle on the next 2 slides, I'd like to connect the various items discussed in the presentation and their correlation with the council-approved budget priorities. For budget priority 1, as discussed at points in the presentation, the city has produced a structurally balanced budget over the 10-year horizon that fully complies with the Economic Anomaly Reserve policy and provides a path to success for the newly proposed General Fund Capital Contribution Policy. For Budget Priority 2, the city continues to make incremental progress with the city's areas of focus. Most recently, 2 were closed out, with 4 remaining. As an example, programs such as the Sidewalk Replacement Program in the capital budget and legislative advocacy efforts for tort reform are aimed at managing and improving open liabilities in the city's self-insurance fund. For Budget Priority 3, the city has made progress improving its vacancy rate in recent years through various programs. To further improve, the city is actively working to streamline recruitment timelines to shorten the time from departure to hire, with the goal of reducing open vacancy counts. For Budget Priority 4, the city has included significant recommended investment in parks, buildings, and public right-of-way. Across these categories, we have $129.2 million already committed to various projects, and another $192.1 million recommended in the coming 5 years, marking a significant investment across the city. For Budget Priority 5, the city continues to lean into its economic development efforts, attracting businesses such as Castellion, FlightWave, and Hart Aerospace. The city continues to be sought after with many developments underway and community development processing significant levels of permit applications. For Budget Priority 6, staff are implementing multiple budget efficiency measures, such as consolidating legal services budget in the city attorney's office to mitigate over-budgeting, additional funding to address land lease audits, ensuring the city receives its proper amount of land lease revenues, and leveraging more grant opportunities for city projects to mitigate the burden on the general fund to complete them. Next slide. For Budget Priority 7, continued investment is recommended in IT through the proposed staffing reorganization and projects such as CAD, RMS, ERP, and camera projects funded through the Capital Improvement Plan. For Budget Priority 8, the city continues to make progress building out infrastructure at City Hall and the City Yard to support the migration. Additional funding has been slotted in the Capital Improvement Plan to address charges themselves. For Budget Priority number 9, elevated funding levels are continue to be included in the budget document to support efforts like the tree trimming contract that was recently amended by City Council. Additionally, Community Services is recommending a landscape architect be added to further help accelerate completion of certain projects and not rely on outside vendors. For Budget Priority 10, staff continue to work through the library needs assessment. To support this effort, a cross-departmental team, including Community Services, City Manager's Office, and Finance, has been assembled and is actively working through this effort, most recently utilizing a survey to gather feedback. Finally, for Budget Priority 11, the police department's efforts to work through the collaborative reform effort has been supported through the addition of new positions, funding purchases such as the $1.5 million purchase of mobile data computers, funding major projects like CAD and RMS, as well as $4 million in funding to fund the monitor that serves as the liaison between the city and the California Department of Justice over the next 5 years. Next slide. As for next steps, tonight I walked us through the summary of for the city's proposed budget document. Hopefully Mayor, Council, and the public have found the presentation valuable and helpful at condensing about 240 pages of content into the 67 slides we've covered. Tonight marks the first public hearing to gather feedback from your honorable body and the public. The next step is a public hearing on May 19th. And finally, staff would return on June 9th for the third and final hearing seeking approval from council to officially adopt the budget and approve the necessary appropriations resolutions. This concludes staff's presentation, and myself, along with fellow department heads, are available for any questions. Thank you.
All right. It's interesting. Very, very good, Ian, and to congratulate you and your team and the city staff. I look at the chamber here. What I'm looking for someone in the public because I know that this is usually a high interest topic. So just for the formality, are there any one in the public who wishes to comment? Each speaker will have up to 2 minutes, but I'm fairly confident I don't see any. So if there's any members of the public who's watching this and recording, this is the first hearing. You will have another chance. I think, Ian, May 19th is the second one, right?
Mayor, City Council, Ian Daly, Finance Director. Next one is May 19th, followed by June 9th. Yes.
Okay. So,
Your Honor, if I may
yes.
suggest, we'll take it as the first item at the
Yeah.
May 19th meeting.
right.
Tonight was very heavy with proclamations and community matters.
Yeah.
We'll promote the meeting as well
Yeah.
to allow, aside from the amount of outreach we've done for the public, we do encourage feedback up until that point as well.
Good.
Thank you.
Good. Yeah, because I know that there was a lot of, I think, outreach to the community to get feedback. And I think based on the data that we received, I believe all the feedback was very positive. But at the same time, there's always, some folks that feels like they haven't seen the information. So next council meeting will be earlier as best as we can, because we want to be as transparent and open to the public as possible. And seeing no one in the public here to make any comment, I'm going to bring it up to the city council then. Okay. Councilman Kaji.
Thank you, Your Honor, and thank you, Finance Director Daly, for your presentation in one breath. So looking at this and going to slide number 15, the key performance indicators with the dashboard, I'm thinking back to when I first came on the council, where we were in the lead into fiscal year 21-22 and then the subsequent years. So it's great to see that the regimen that's been established by your department, and it's great to see all the departments represented here tonight in budgeting correctly and anticipating changes has been working out very well for the city. So my compliments to your team, also to all the department heads. And I have to say, even though given the lateness of this is really exciting stuff for, well, I guess a finance nerd like me. But I am concerned, though, that one item that is a concern, the South Bay COG recently created the South Bay Regional Housing Trust. And while we do have a number of new projects coming online here in the city, multifamily housing, both for rent and for purchase, the ongoing pressures from Sacramento for us to create low-income housing and the hope for modification to Senator Allen's bill to include workforce housing, I think will be key for our city looking ahead if we're able to, once again, attract and retain quality workers who can not just commute into Torrance, but who also live here and become part of our community. But I think just in total, though, I'm very encouraged by the trends that we're seeing, even though I know you're cautiously optimistic. At least when we've had our conversations, I can almost see inside of you that you're feeling pretty good about this, even though you don't give on to that. So, but yeah. So my only concern, though, is how we can continue to move towards meeting our state mandated RENA requirements, and how we can do it in a thoughtful way. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Kalani.
Thank you so much. I actually want to give all of you a round of applause for the great job that you've done and working together. This is truly Team Torrance, and Mr. Daly, thank you for your presentation, and thank you for taking time to answer all the questions that I had. I did want to, for the public to be able to hear, just re-ask that one question that we talked about with the local news coming out with the county and the state saying that they're not going to have the same funding sources they've had in the past. How will that affect the city, and have we planned for that?
Mayor, Council, Ian Daly, Finance Director. Our exposure on that front is relatively limited. We haven't explicitly planned for any specific amounts, but First things that come to mind from my perspective would be on our legislative advocacy efforts and maybe some of those asks not coming to fruition. In terms of planning this budget, it's assumed none of those come through. So anytime we can get any of those windfalls, it'll ultimately just be a bottom line benefit to the general fund. But so that would be kind of the biggest area that comes to my mind.
And you talked a little bit about maybe it affecting our homeless program a little bit, or not really even there.
So one thing that was touched on in the slides at the federal level relates to Section 8. The emergency housing voucher program is sunsetting. Staff estimate by the end of July that program will be cut off. That would have a direct effect on about 33 people in the city of Torrance.
And it looks like, Ms. Ramirez, you want to say something?
No, I was just going to echo what Finance Director Daly said. Michelle Ramirez, Community Development Director. The Housing Choice Voucher Program was actually funded as part of the American Rescue Act in 2021. And it was supposed to be a 9-year program that would eventually fade out in September of 2030. $5 billion was allocated through that act for the EHV program, Emergency Shelter Voucher Program. There was about 70,000 vouchers that was expected to fund throughout the entire country, of that 70,000, Torrance received 33. To give you perspective, between the county and the city of LA, they received about 5,300 of those vouchers. However, due to rising rents, which we hear about all the time, the funds were going through much faster than money was given for this program. And as a result, these 70,000 vouchers, which are now down to probably about 50, somewhere between 55 and 60,000 vouchers throughout the country, they will all sunset now 4 years earlier than anticipated. The program, just so you understand how it was supposed to work, it was always once you received a voucher and someone came off that program, we weren't allowed to reissue it, because the whole idea was just to have that transitional period for someone going from homelessness or at risk of homelessness or domestic violence or trafficking, to be able to have this transition period till they can be able to either go on to a Section 8 program or become self-sufficient. In our case, the council actually took an action with our housing authority by creating a benefit for those folks on the Housing Choice Voucher Program to receive priority on our regular program. The problem is, because of the shortage of fundings, not just for the EHV, but even with the Section 8 right now, we're unable to transfer them over. So as hopefully more funds come to this program, we keep hearing additional funds are going to be allocated to our regular Housing Choice Voucher Program. If we're able to get additional funds, then those EHVs would be assisted first. Even if they came off the program, this council allowed us to create a priority for even those who came off still to receive a priority.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you again, everyone.
Councilman Sheikh.
Thank you, Mr. Daly. I think this is your second year you're doing the budget. Congratulations. I think you're doing a great job. And thank you for always available for all the questions that you have. We appreciate it. I wanted to simplify in just 2 questions, although I had a bunch of questions, and for the time of, I'll try to keep it minimum. In your department, you're adding 2 auditors, page 34. When you get there, I'll have a couple of questions. Let me know.
Mayor, Council Ian Daly, ready when you are, Councilman.
Great. So these are 2 additional auditors. How many auditors do we have in our city?
To clarify, it's purely a conversion, so no increase in overall FTE in the department.
Right.
Currently, there's 5 accountants, 2 senior accountants, and basically changing those titles. 4 of the 7 becoming accountant, senior accountant, so merging those together, which creates additional step growth opportunity for existing accountants. And then rather than call two staff members in the department accountant, senior accountant, their role and their function really is that of an internal auditor. And so wanting to reflect that in their job title to correct it going forward to better represent that whenever there would be turnover. So there's two. And then the revenue supervisor is to peel that off because it's currently a senior accountant that supervises, but none of the other senior accountants do. And so we want to create parity across the revenue and the accounting divisions accordingly.
Okay, yeah, I think I didn't ask the question. I didn't mean that you're adding to NFT in finance department. I know that we are just evening up or basically not adding any staff to your finance. But I think what I wanted to get to it, the role is changing. You're making two positions to audit internally, and I wanted to know the scope for those employees or associates.
Mayor, Council, Ian Daly, Finance Director. They already are functioning in this capacity. They are just called an accountant and a senior accountant today. So it's not a change in their scope, their practice, or anything. It's purely to better align their title. An example of what they might do is time card audits. Recently, we went through a number of the departments to look at, do an internal audit on time card processes.
And other audit functions as well, right?
Any number of internal audit functions, yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for that. Second question I will ask about the capital. You alluded earlier that we have about $1 billion of capital that we own in the city, and we may have to spend $250 million in the next 10 years, which is about $21 million each year. I see 4 of the capital, they are in critical condition, right?
Mayor, Council, Ian Daly, Finance Director. Yes, that's correct. Per the Building Index study, 4 of the 100 plus assets were placed in the critical condition, yes.
Are those fully depreciated?
I am sure that they are. A large number of our assets already are. And one thing to just point out is the $1 billion figure quoted comes from our audited financial statements. That's all at book value. It's not representative of a current asset value. Just wanted to clarify that as well.
Thank you. So what are the plans? Are we still operating those facilities, or are we going to make new remodel, or what's the plan?
Mayor, Council, Ian Daly, Finance Director. I don't know what those 4 assets are off the top of my head. I could look at that and get them, but definitely trying to, in general, prioritize assets that are in the worst condition to bring them up to par. But as mentioned throughout the presentation, the value of those assets far exceeds our ability to ultimately deliver on them on a shorter time frame, and we're just currently doing the best we can with what we do have.
Yeah, I think that's what I was getting to. It if we need to look at what those facilities are, and how much is it does it need to either repair or completely remodel it, so we don't have the situation that it's dangerous for our community or staff. But thank you again for helping us understand. Thank you for a great budget, balanced budget. Yeah, I see a lot of great information, and I think we should be very proud of the work that you're doing. Thanks.
All right. Anyone else? Councilman Gerson.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Daly. We did meet last week, and I appreciate the conversation. First, I wanted to ask one question of clarity. If I heard you correctly, you said that our property tax increase fit in like in the top 5%, but I don't remember you saying state or county.
Mayor, Council, Ian Daly, Finance Director. That would be for the county.
Okay. Of the 88 cities, okay.
That's correct. Our assessed value grew by 4.6%, which ranks in the 5th largest.
My next question is for the city clerk. Meeting that we had, if I remember correctly, you discussed CCAC membership and the benefits it would have to your staff. Could you please share that with me again?
Yes, council member. For my staff to earn a certified municipal clerk designation, the California Municipal Clerks Association is one of our professional organization. It empowers municipal clerks through development and connections. They provide leadership and management training opportunities, enhancing levels of service responsible to the growing demands within our city. They foster proactive programs to promote effective legislation and promoting networking among members. The membership cost per individual is $300 per year. The International Institute of Municipal Clerks is our other professional organization that has 75 years of experience improving the professionalism of municipal clerks. They promote lifelong learning, skill development, public service, and foster a spirit of mutual assistance and goodwill among municipal clerks around the globe. They offer 2 certifications which can be earned through participation in the educational programs. It does take 2 years to earn it. The first is the Certified Municipal Clerk designation, and the second is the Master Municipal Clerk designation. And you have to have so many years in between those 2 to earn them. These certifications and education programs are offered through the IAMC, and it empowers the members to achieve academic and professional success. This also promotes the level of service my office can provide to our residents, and the cost for the associate membership in that organization is $135 per person. Currently, I only have 3 people that in the office that are members of both.
And if you had made all the people that you're interested in doing that, what would be the total cost?
For all of them.
Well, with the ones you were trying to.
Well, we do have some money in our budget. I could add a couple more people to that, but the shortfall in my budget would be $1,600 to make everybody in my office minus the intern.
That's what I thought.
A member.
Seems like a very tiny amount for the benefit. Is that something we can help the city clerk's office with?
Mayor, Council, Ian Daly, Finance Director, I'm sure that's something that could be accomplished even just in looking and passing at the current year's fiscal year budget. It seems like there's even some flexibility there. So I think if we peel this back in a very detailed fashion, we might even be able to accomplish it with what we do have. So staff could take a look at it, return in the next hearing with specifics on that.
You and I had talked about capital improvements specifically for parks. A lot of the money that we're talking about, except for hitting our major projects of Columbia and El Nino, a lot of this stuff is 5-year, right? It's not going to be happening next year.
Mayor, Council, Ian Daly, Finance Director, if I could clarify, in reference to those larger scale projects or some of the others not represented
The ones that are not the 2 large projects.
That's correct. What's included in the 5-year CIP is what's achievable. And so those those parks represented there are what would be included. Don't forget there's a number of projects that were recently funded by City Council by redirecting somewhere around $900,000, if I recall correctly, from the Tillums Center to 8 parks, I believe. So those would also be prioritized as well.
Councilmember Armstrong, City Manager, we also recently approved the preemptive contracts for electricians, plumbers, crafts, to be able to, I think what you're alluding to is some of the more localized repairs and improvements under our operating budget, and Mr. Stevens can chime in as well.
Wonderful. Would you please?
Yeah, and we also have other projects that are currently underway, like Paradise Park, Gunzer Walking Path. There's other projects that we're working on right now, the pickleball courts at Wilson. So there's a number. Oh, and I'm sorry, Ted Stevens, Community Services Director. So there's a number of projects that we're already working on that have been approved in the past couple of years. So
They're just
we
not
we have a lot of
reflected here.
projects.
And they're not reflected here.
Yeah, I mean,
Mayor, council, so the projects Ted's referencing are fully represented in the capital plan. So the pickleball courts, Paradise Park, the full overhaul, those are all represented. But I think to City Manager Shaparian's comment, that doesn't mean other things won't take place through the operating budget that are smaller in scale and scope, like lighting improvements, painting bathrooms, power washing things, and some of those other sort of smaller scale improvements that are easy wins for us that aren't so capital intensive, like overhauling the entire park. So it's not that the others will have zero attention. It's just that they're not at that same scale and scope.
Thank you. You touched on digital signs. Would you share a little bit about what was done and where the 3 locations are?
Mayor, Council, Ian Daly, Finance Director, happy to do so. So the 3 digital signs replaced existing ones. So the first one here is here at the Civic Center. The other one is at North Torrance Library, and then the largest one is in front of Wilson Park on Crenshaw and Jefferson Street.
So that would be districts 1, 3, and 4.
That sounds correct, maybe.
Is there, this was something that Councilmember Kalani and I had talked about at some point. I don't remember when. There is a sign near the airport off PCH that seems like a wonderful location for a digital sign that could both be usable for the city to hit District 6, but also to complement the airport. That seems like a nice place for a city digital sign. Because nothing on that, I mean, we don't have the same type of communications ability as far as digital signs in any part of the south part of Torrance.
Councilmember Adams, Prime City Manager, outgoing Councilmember Griffiths had made a request for the corner of PCH and Hawthorne due to some restrictions on site. We couldn't pursue that location. However, if the council's desire is to expand our footprint, we can look at an alternative location, including the one that you're proposing, and bring back for further deliberation direction.
Is that something also, since if it is related to the airport and attached, is that something that the airport fund can also be considered a possibility?
It may, yes.
Thank you. Those are my questions.
All right. Any other comments or questions from the council? If there aren't any, I'll take a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Start voting, please. Your Honor, that motion carried unanimously.
All right. So I believe all we did is close the public hearing because we will continue this on May 19th. Okay? All right. Let's see. Moving on to administrative matters. Item 10A from the Community Development Director. Is there a staff presentation? Whoa. Everybody's.
Good night.
Thank you all for staying here. Wow.
Right, don't walk.
Wait.
We should load up with some questions. Okay, I think we're ready
Good
to go.
evening, Mayor, council members. Michelle Ramirez, Community Development Director. On February 11th, 2025, the City Council adopted the Micro Enterprise Home Kitchen Operation, or MICO, ordinance, which was established by California Assembly Bill 626. It legally permitted food facilities to be able to operate out of a private home, allowing individuals to sell homemade meals directly to consumers. An approved operation is allowed to cook up to 30 meals daily or 90 meals per week with a $100,000 gross annual sales limit. The city's current adopted ordinance includes operating standards as allowed under the Los Angeles County MECO ordinance, including requiring a city business license, prohibiting the sales and service of alcohol at any approved MECO, and prohibiting compact food operations or CMFOs from the home. Additionally, the current ordinance requires a zoning clearance from the city, as well as written authorization from a homeowners association, if applicable, or a property owner manager in the case where the MECO operator is not the owner or of the residence where the business will be conducted. However, after further review of AB 626 and AB 377, which amended and clarified the language in AB 626, it's been determined that cities cannot require a MECO to obtain any specialized zoning permit, land use permit, or home occupation permit. Regarding a city's ability to require a MECO to obtain written approval from a homeowners association or property owner, even if the county health department is already processing the health permit and gathering the documentation, is unclear. As the city's currently adopted ordinance includes the requirement that a MECO obtain a zoning clearance letter and a home occupation business license from the city, these conditions are being removed from the ordinance. As far as requiring written approval from a homeowners association or landlord prior to the issuance of a city business license, this has also been removed from the ordinance. Instead, the burden would be on the MECO operator to ensure they are not violating any homeowners association regulation or lease agreement. The city still will require the MECO to obtain a city business license, as well as prohibit the sales and service of alcohol, and prohibit CMFOs from operating from the home. At this time, staff recommends the City Council discuss and consider the attached amended ordinance, and if approved, determine the project is exempt from CEQA and approve the corresponding ordinance summary for publication. This concludes staff presentation, and I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm assuming there's no one from the city sign up city clerk. Matter of fact, I don't see any public in the chamber, so I'm gonna go right down the city council. Any questions from the city council? Okay, I don't see any. City clerk, may I have a number and title, please?
Yes, Your Honor. This is ordinance number 3966, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Torrance, California, amending Division 4, Chapter 20, entitled Micro Enterprise Home Kitchen Operations of the Torrance Municipal Code.
Okay.
Move to adopt ordinance 3966 and establish that it's exempt from CEQA. What was the other thing? I'm sorry.
Approve the ordinance summary.
I approve the ordinance summary. I'm falling asleep over here. Thank you.
Second.
Start voting, please. Your Honor, that motion carried unanimously.
Great. Thank you. Item 10B from the Public Works Director. Is there a staff presentation?
Yes, good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the Council. I'm Jessamine Q from Public Works. Item 10B has 3 recommendations related to the annual levy of assessments for the City of Torrance Lighting District 99-1 for fiscal year 26-27. Adopt a resolution initiating proceedings to levy assessments within the district. Adopt a resolution approving the engineer's report, and adopt a resolution of intention to levy assessments and set the date of June 9, 2026 for the public hearing. The lighting district was established in 1999 and pays for street lighting citywide. These resolutions are required annually for the city to continue collecting assessments from properties in Torrance to pay for street lighting. The proposed assessment amounts for fiscal year 26-27 are the same as last year's and have remained the same since 2000. For example, most single-family residential properties would be assessed $20.50 in fiscal year 26-27 or $1.71 a month. As required by Proposition 218, The engineer's report separates special benefits allocable to individual real properties from general benefits to the public. Assessments paid by property owners pay for special benefits of street lighting only. The total street lighting cost of the district in fiscal year 26-27 is estimated at $1,968,915. This represents a 56,087 increase from fiscal year 25-26, which corresponds to an increase in SCE rates. Assessment revenues are projected to be $1,400,320 in fiscal year 26-27. The balance of district cost would be funded by gas tax funds in the amount of $568,595 as identified in the proposed fiscal year 26-27 budget. This completes the presentation.
Thank you very much. Once again, I don't see any members of the public, so we'll come right to the City Council. Any questions or comments from the council? I don't see any. City Clerk, may I have number and title, please?
Yes, Your Honor. The first is resolution number 2026-37, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Torrance, California, initiating proceedings for the levy and collection of assessments within the City of Torrance Lighting District number 99-1 for fiscal year 2026-2027 pursuant to the provisions of Part 2 of Division 15 of the Streets and Highways Code and as provided by Article 13D of the California Constitution. Resolution number 2026-38, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Torrance, California, approving the report of the engineer in connection with the levy and collection of assessments within City of Torrance Lighting District number 99-1 for fiscal year 2026-2027 pursuant to the provisions of Part 2 of Division 15 of the Streets and Highway Code and as provided by Article 13D of the California Constitution. And resolution number 2026-39, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Torrance, California, declaring its intention to levy and collect assessments within the City of Torrance Lighting District number 99-1 for fiscal year 2026-2027 pursuant to the provisions of Part 2 of Division 15 of the Streets and Highways Code and as provided by Article 13D of the California Constitution, appointing a time and place for public hearing.
All right. I'll take a motion to concur with recommendation of Public Works Director.
Make a motion to concur with the Public Works Director and adopt resolutions 2026-37, 2026-38,
And 39?
and 39.
Second.
Start voting, please. Your Honor, that motion carried unanimously.
Item 10C from the City Clerk. Is there a staff presentation?
Yes, there is, Your Honor. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. Rob Williams, Deputy City Clerk, the City Clerk's Office. Item 10C is a recommendation of the City Clerk that City Council, 1, discuss and provide direction on fingerprinting requirements for commissioners. 2, determine whether fingerprinting should be required before or after appointment. 3, determine if all commissions should be included. And 4, direct the City Clerk to draft a resolution establishing the commission fingerprinting requirement policy. At the City Council meeting date of July 8th, 2025, Councilman Ritucci received concurrence for the City Clerk to bring back an item to discuss and provide direction on updating fingerprinting requirements for commissioners. Fingerprinting and background checks are a requirement for paid and volunteer positions in the city. Many other local cities and municipalities require it to be completed for appointed commissioners. Adding additional positions to those required to undergo fingerprinting would incur no additional costs besides a one-time $19 per fingerprint charge. This fingerprinting and background check would join the other requirements for commissioners, including FPPC Conflict of Interest Form 700, Commission Certification Training, Ethics AB 1234, and Non-Supervisory Harassment Prevention Training. Commission certification training is a requirement for application, while the other requirements are only required once a commissioner is appointed. The City Clerk is asking City Council to discuss and provide direction on whether the live scan fingerprinting and background check should be a requirement for application or after appointment. Fingerprinting at the time of application would increase the cost to the city by requiring more fingerprinting per commission appointment. For example, if there were 5 applicants for one vacancy, all 5 would be fingerprinted versus 1 after appointment. Applicants would only be fingerprinted 1 time no matter how many commissions they apply for. And fingerprinting would cover for additional appointments. Fingerprinting after commission appointment could lead to complications if the background check does not clear. The city council would need to direct the city clerk to bring an item forward to have that appointed commissioner removed from the commission. This would create an unscheduled vacancy. The city clerk is also asking city council to identify which commissions, if not all, should be included in the policy. As an alternative to requiring all commissions to undergo fingerprinting, the policy can apply only to commissions that have direct contact with children. It is important to note that choosing only to fingerprint certain commissions will require staff to track which commissioners have completed their fingerprinting and background check. If a commissioner moves from a commission that did not require it to a commission that does require it, then the commissioner would be required to get their fingerprinting done at that time. So in summary, it is the recommendation of the city clerk that City Council 1, discuss and provide direction on fingerprinting requirements for commissioners. 2, determine whether fingerprinting should be required before or after appointment. 3, determine if all commissions should be included. And 4, direct the city clerk to draft a resolution establishing the commission fingerprinting requirement policy. Staff is available for any questions. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no public in the chamber, I will come directly to the council. Councilman Matucci.
Thank you, Mayor. Me personally, I would prefer that we fingerprint after the appointment, immediately after the appointment, and possibly before the first meeting that they join in. So I don't know what the time frame is, but figure if we have, let's say, on average, 1 meeting a month, depending on what commission they join. So hypothetically, I guess you would have at least a couple weeks wiggle room to get those fingerprints done. I know it can be done relatively quick, but the other thing is I don't think we need to fingerprint everybody across the board, but at least the commissions that are in direct contact with minors. I think that's a must. So which commissions would those be? Do you have a...
That's a good question, council member. The 5 we've identified are going to be the Cultural Arts Commission, the Environmental Quality and Energy Conservation Commission, Library Commission, Parks and Recreation, and the Social Services Commission. If you want to add additionals to that list, that's just an example list we've provided. We can adjust that.
Okay, and I would imagine any staff that deals with like outreach programs with children, they already have background. If they're part of the city already.
Yeah, not just anybody who does outreach. Every employee in the city is going to be
Already
background check.
Okay,
Yes,
so
every paid employee.
yeah, so I would probably suggest that we do the fingerprinting after, but before their first meeting, if that's even possible, right? I mean, I know it's going to be a small window of time, but you don't want them to participate in a meeting not knowing if they pass their background or the fingerprinting, you know?
I think some of those logistical concerns will depend on commission meetings take place at various times. So if one falls right after commission appointments take place and they go into office,
can we stipulate that to where your fingerprinting has to be done before you can participate in a meeting?
Almost like a provisional.
Yeah, like where you're appointed subject to fingerprinting background, passing up before you can join in one of the meetings.
I definitely think that's a stipulation we can look into creating for the policy itself. Yes.
Yeah, then I would just do it. I mean, we could start with the 5 that you identified that would be in contact with minors, and then we could always change it, right? I mean, we could always expand it or shrink it if we need to. I mean, that's what I would probably suggest.
Councilman Tucci, maybe I could just ask you a question before we all start asking our questions.
Yeah.
We made an assumption about fingerprinting. I was just wondering, since some public may be watching this on video tomorrow, what are we looking for when we're getting a fingerprint?
Mayor, that's a good question. where when you get fingerprinted, the information that the Department of Justice has gets forwarded to the city. So it's going to be any crime that they're tracking. For what the city would decide is basically the bar for reaching a level that an appointment would be canceled, or depending on if you do it before or after appointment, I guess. That's up to the council to decide what they want in the policy.
So establish a threshold.
Yeah,
right?
to
I mean,
establish
are you looking for, I mean, do they have, I don't know, been convicted of child trafficking or something, you know? And they spent, 15 years in jail, and then all of a sudden they move to Torrance, you know?
A criminal record. Or
But I
maybe
guess-
I'll ask the
I guess the
assistant
threshold
city
would be
attorney.
We would work with the city, the Tasha Strader, Assistant City Attorney. We would work with the city clerk's office because I imagine, I mean, just in terms of risk and liability, that we would want to set a certain threshold. In other words, even if you wanted, not that anyone would, to hire people that had a certain conviction, it may not be in the best interest of the city, or it may not even be legal in some cases. So we would do the research and work with the city clerk's office to develop that suggested part of this policy and bring it back to the council, I imagine, is the plan.
Okay, so in other words, we don't have to, we just have to kind of give it a direction tonight, and then we can establish later on
Well,
what
if
what
you're
the
going,
threshold
if the
might be.
council limits it to just one, if there ends up being a concurrence and we're only doing it for the kids, for any commissions that work with children, then I think it's going to be fairly straightforward. I think where it gets more complicated is if if you decide it's going to be for all the commissions or something like that, then where do you want to set the threshold would be a little different.
That's why I asked the question. I know it sounds very basic, but I just want to make sure that we're all level set, because, you could say, if it's criminal record based.
Right,
Right.
because-
Does that mean that, we're looking at, there are some commissioned appointees that we don't care if he or she had a criminal record.
We'd have to look at it.
Right.
It's different for employees, for example. If you work with Bunny, you don't want someone that has a crime of theft, and with employees, by law, there has to be a nexus.
Right.
And there's all these rules, so it's going to be a little bit different for people that are appointed. But I don't have all the standards off the top of my head, but we would be happy to work with the city
Yeah, I
clerk's
mean,
office
the
and bring
reason
something
I
back.
bring this up, because I know a lot of my colleagues are clicking in, is to really try to level set, what the implication is when we talk about fingerprinting. Because when I was looking at this naturally in my head, I was saying, if we have a criteria that says something to the effect, if someone, I know we talked about this, even the application, I think I'm trying to remember the commission application. There used to be a box that says, have you been convicted of
A felony, yeah.
a felony or crime? Something along those lines. And then does that disqualify someone? Because if we want to do that, naturally, in my simple mind, is you do it for everyone. Because if that's the criteria, but you don't want to make an appointment, even if the appointment's subject to, but then the way we do our appointments, once it's done, everybody's gone, then you potentially have a vacancy, then you have to do a reappointment. So, so right now, I think the city clerk really asking us, do we want to do it first, even though it seems like it's more exhaustive, but, right?
Do we still have that box on the application, Rebecca?
Yes, we do. It says, have you ever been convicted of any crime or violation of any law or statute other than minor traffic violations, yes or no?
Okay.
Please provide, if yes, please provide a separate sheet of
So
explanation.
hopefully that would screen out a lot of people, and then the only people would be if they were subsequently convicted of a crime or they were dishonest on their application. So hopefully that would limit it, since that's already on the application. Does that make sense? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, as long as they're truthful on the application.
Right, exactly.
Well, and we would apply it to current, like if we were to go down that road, I mean, we would screen the people that are on there now, right? That's the
That would
idea, right?
likely be something that we would put in the policy, like when this takes effect, all commissioners who are currently appointed get fingerprinted all at once.
Yeah, the last thing we want to do is have to wait for
The next
for
cycle.
people to cycle out. It could take 8 years, you know. I'm sorry. Is it okay?
Yeah. Go ahead. I was trying to make sure. I know it
Yeah,
sounds
yeah.
like a very basic question, but I want to bring that out early because
Yeah.
you know what is significance of fingerprinting before we decide try to do a policy on it.
Yeah, and also, I guess the big question is, I mean, I know that there's a cost to, you know, there's a cost associated with fingerprinting, but I mean, do we get like a bulk rate if we just do like everybody, or I mean, does it get cheaper per individual if we do more people? I mean,
I'm not aware of a bulk rate. I think it is just a $19 flat fee.
Okay.
That's the fee that city employees are charged
okay,
at, and you know we have a lot of employees, so
okay. Yeah, because we have a lot of commissioners too. So.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's see what everybody else has.
Councilman Gerson.
Thank you. The first thing I was thinking about was the before or after. If I remember correctly, our airport commissioners literally got appointed and the next day got their agenda and the next day we're in a meeting. It was literally 48 hours from appointment to meeting. That's one meeting where we would have missed 3 commissioners. They wouldn't be at their first meeting because they'd have to get it after. And that doesn't make sense to me. The other concern that I have about doing after is, so something comes back. Why is this person not at the meeting? Why is this person getting replaced? There exists no confidentiality. Everyone's going to know that this person got appointed and 2 weeks later was replaced. So that concerns me as far as that appearance and what we could do to that person. It just seems natural that it becomes a screening tool from the beginning. We know going in, a person coming in for an interview knows, oh wait, this is on my record. If they're dishonest, that's something that's going to play a role in it. It's something we know up front, not after the fact. And it just seems more upfront and more clear, more honest for both parties, those who are trying to get the position and us. And I just think it makes it simpler if you do it ahead of time, rather than just doing the ones after they're appointed and the issues that could cause. As far as which commissions, I don't have an opinion at this moment. I need more time to consider if it should be everyone or just those 5. So I'm not prepared to answer that question yet. I need to hear more people talk, and I need to hear more opinion. Thank you.
All right, Councilman Sheikh.
Thank you. Great point, Councilman Gerson. I think I was going the same direction. But my comments are, isn't that cheaper or quicker, efficient to just run by Social Security? It's available very quickly. The background screening, it's very cheaper. You can get instantly if there are any background concerns. Why we don't have to have fingerprinting that may intimidate some of the applicants? It takes 30, 48 hours. That's what we're saying, right?
Correct. If something, Councilmember Sheikh, if something were to come back, it could potentially take longer because the technicians that do the screening, when they see something, they go ahead and do a manual check. So if there's something there, or maybe they're not sure about something, it can take longer. But if it's a clean record, then it's 24 to 72 hours typically.
Right. But with Social Security, you can get instant.
I'm not sure on the specifics of that, but what I would say is that live scan fingerprint background checks, it's a pretty standard thing. The city's like very familiar with it, so it's something we could integrate.
I think our police chief will comment.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. Bob Dunn, Chief of Police. So the fingerprint background is a requirement for the DOJ to run it. It wouldn't be done through your Social Security, primarily because people could potentially adopt someone else's social security number or forge a card. Not to say that we would have people that would apply for this particular commission appointment and do that, but your fingerprints are unique to you, and it's very difficult for you to do something that would be less than truthful as your fingerprints. And so that is why the standard across all background checks for municipal employment is your fingerprints.
Well, thank you for that. How about crossing guard? We also do a lot of checking for those, right?
Yes, sir.
It's the same process,
Yes, sir.
right? So it should be consistent then. I agree with you.
Yes, sir.
So it's probably more efficient that way, have the same process across the board. Okay, thank you.
Councilwoman Lewis.
Thank you. I am a proponent of pre-appointment for a couple of the reasons that were stated here. And then also, in researching this, I know that there's like 5 or 6 cities that are close to us, LA, Point Park, sorry, Chief, Anaheim, Beverly Hills, who all require not only their commissioners to do it, but their council members to do it as well, which is kind of interesting. My question would be rechecks, because we have commissioners that, I mean, you could end up being a commissioner for 20 or so years. Is there any provision that there's a recheck that would be required after a certain amount of time? Or are we depending on commissioners to self-report when there's an incident?
Councilmember Lewis, I believe how it works is that when you provide your fingerprint for the first time, the DOJ then gives you an update if something were to change.
No, that would be a subsequent arrest, and we'd have to have a reason for that, which we would not have a reason to do a periodic subsequent arrest record.
I think you could probably include something in the policy to require them to self-report. And I mean, it's not a guarantee.
Self-report, because subsequent arrest becomes problematic.
Yeah, because, and Haiti A can correct me if I'm wrong, I think with the exception of, I know this is not employment, but that's the best analogy we have for this situation. With the exception of certain folks that have certain types of jobs, especially those who drive, we may receive an update regarding their driver's license status because that's required by law. But generally speaking, at least in employment, and this is similar but different, you're not going to get that update, to your point. So I think my suggestion, if the council wants to do that, would be to put something in the policy that requires self-reporting. And I know it's not perfect. And then to your earlier point, and maybe this was obvious to everyone, but the council also works with the youth council. So you're certainly welcome to exclude yourself, but that might just be something that may come up. Oh, excuse me. That may come up since the council, I believe you have a meeting each year with the youth council also. So if you're going to require everyone that works with kids, that might be just something to consider.
And then I'm quite sure that as we're researching this, that we'll make sure that we're complying with the Fair Chance Act, correct?
Well, I don't know if it applies to appointments. I know it applies to in the employment context, but folks are going to know if they're going to be disqualified based upon a criminal conviction or what have you. I'm sure we'll have a mechanism to let them know. So I don't know. I'd have to go look at the Fair Chance Act. I thought it was specific to employment. I could be mistaken.
So it was written for employment, but in the context of backgrounds, you might have something that might pop back on someone's background that's decades and decades old, that's no longer an issue, and I want to make sure that we have some type of mechanism in place that speaks to that. So, for instance, the first one that pops off of my head is I'm 21 years old and got a DUI back when I was a knucklehead in college, and now I'm 60 and I just want to give back to my community. At what point do we, it's still going to pop up in my background, but as long as I disclose it on the application, I'm sure I should be okay, but I just want to make sure that we have a mechanism in place to address that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councilman Kaji.
When individuals apply to serve on a commission, does the application include any language? And since we're talking about 5 specific commissions, could we include language to inform the applicant that if you're applying for these particular commissions, there will be a fingerprinting requirement, and if you have anything that you believe might remove you from consideration, please self-report, prior to making the application, something like that.
We could include that in the confidential section of the application near where the "have you ever been convicted" is.
Yeah, because I think that would avoid any sort of embarrassment later. Thank you.
We probably put something similar to what we do on the employment applications. It essentially says if you don't disclose it and we find out you did it, you're going to be disqualified or something, whatever the council, decides, but something along those lines.
Okay. Councilwoman Kalani.
Thank you. I'm just curious. Even if you've already been fingerprinted a week ago so that you can volunteer at your child's school, you still have to be re-fingerprinted, right? Each and every time.
If you're talking about in context, it's to the ORI, or the agency needs to get the receipt of the fingerprint-based background back to them. So we couldn't use something used for the district and said you were clear in our background. It would need to be run by the city back to our repository.
I see. And I mean, at the highest, Ms. Poirier, at the highest number of applicants we've had, like the last round, there was a lot. How many was that? 20?
I think we've had up to 30 applicants. It just depends on the commission and
30
different. So we usually have 2 commissioners term out at a time. It's 2, 2, 2, and 1. Sometimes we have additional vacancies with that. So some years we have more availability for people to apply for a commission. So some years it will be like maybe 30 applicants, and some years it's less.
Right. Okay. All right. I'm just trying to find a dollar amount each time that we go through this, which is once a year? Twice a year?
Once a year.
Once a year. So it's really not that much.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
It's easier, just round up to $20. The math works easier.
Exactly. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else from the council? What happens if a person has an incident, but he or she hasn't been arrested? Is that part of the self-report?
Yeah, generally, generally no, is the best answer for that. If we find out something, then we could ask about it. You can't, there's other reasons that someone could be disqualified, or you could decide when you're voting that they're not a suitable candidate. If you have actual information that's verifiable, it doesn't necessarily have to be an arrest, but they're not required to necessarily report it.
Right. Okay. Oh, I don't know what kind of guidance you're needing yet, but my preference is screen before, if it's we're calling fingerprint screening. But I don't know what my colleagues think. I think it's better, and even if it means us, I'm okay for. Why should we not be fingerprinted if we're asking our commissioners? That's just me. But we got a motion. Let's see what we have.
Yeah. Motion is to, move forward. Councilmember Matucci's suggestion. Everybody should be fingerprinted in advance, include the council.
I'm sorry, is it before or after?
Before.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, before they apply.
Then I second.
And we would have to come back with the specifics of the policy, but there may be some limitations on people who are already in office because you're kind of you're moving the ball, so to, you're changing. So I just want to make everyone aware of that. I'd have to look it up, but generally you can't do that sort of thing. These are the requirements when you applied, and now, so it's probably going to be prospective, but I would need to double check that.
But even if it came back with something, you can't remove that person from office. If it comes one of the 7 of us.
I would have to go and double check everything, but probably not.
Yeah, so.
Probably not, because generally the only way you can, if you're talking about a commissioner, then.
No, I think you're talking about us.
Talking about-
Us 7 up
no.
here.
You can't remove the 7 of us, even if something
No.
came back.
Okay.
Okay.
Could I just clarify the motion? Was it for all the commissioners to be, not just the 5?
I
Okay.
think all of them, not just,
Okay,
because
thank
you
you.
never know when they're going to wind up interacting with a young person, especially, and that's a risk.
We also have quasi-judicial ones that seem like a little.
Right.
Councilmember Kalani, just for clarification, I heard you also say you want council potentially to be included? So it's commissions
They should be.
and council?
And council. Mhm. Just like today, we were with young people.
Half of us are already live scanned anyway.
Pardon?
Start voting, please. Your Honor, that motion carried unanimously.
All right. I think we got to the end tonight. Huh? All right. Moving on to oral communications number 2. Since I don't see any community members in the chamber, so I'm not gonna not belabor reading the whole paragraph there and go down the council orals.
Sorry, Mayor, do you want to do the announcement about the American Cancer Society first?
That is correct. Maybe I'm the last person on there, so I'll do that when I get to my turn. How's that? Thank you for reminding me. It's right here. So I will start, Councilman Kanji.
Good night.
Councilwoman Kalani.
Thank you. I did my communication earlier, so good night.
Councilwoman Lewis.
Good night, everyone.
Councilman Matucci.
Good night.
Councilman Shake.
Okay, I have 2 announcements. One is tomorrow, my wife's birthday. So happy birthday, Jill. I know she's still watching. She keep on texting me. So I have to say that, yeah. So I'm not coming to
You're reading your
the
text?
City Hall tomorrow, just so you know. The second is students from El Camino College invite you to the Addams Family musical at the campus theater this weekend. After months of hard work, the cast delivers a top-notch show. Torrance own David stars as Gomez Addams and is known for performing the national anthem at city events, including Torrance Transit's 85th anniversary. The first shows were a big hit, full of laughs and applause. Final performances Friday and Saturday at 8 p.m. and Sunday on Mother's Day at 3 p.m. So please join me in supporting our talented youth. Grab tickets online or at the box office. Hope to see you there. Thank you.
Okay. I think Councilman Gerson is still not here. I'm going to do the first announcement that Michelle ran, who was here earlier, along with Christy Banks earlier this morning, not this morning, tonight. They want, on behalf of Relay for Life, they're inviting all of us here, all us on the dais here, and probably, I would say, includes everyone in the city staff, to the 24th annual Relay for Life. It will be Saturday, this Saturday, is it? This Saturday at 11 a.m. on the city stage on Satori Avenue, where they will once again come together to fight back against cancer. And Michelle and Christy expressed their heartfelt gratitude for many years of support by the city in providing help for the American Cancer Society's mission. Together, they have raised over $4.9 million, and the impact that supports is felt by countless families. So once again, the invitation is participate. Come if you are available. 11 a.m. Relay for Life this Saturday morning at Satori Avenue. Second item that I am alerted is, I believe our Public Works Director, Craig Bilazarian, has a birthday tomorrow. So, oh, how did I know that? Happy birthday, Craig. It's okay, it's okay. We're all Team Torrance, right? It's okay to celebrate each other's birthday. And last week, I think Fran and I and some of the city staff attended the Select LA. It's a great opportunity. There was a top 10 foreign direct investments, and I think this year Japan eked out UK foreign direct investment in the state of California, and it's an opportunity for us to reach out and make relationship and contact, and with the sole purpose of seeking these countries to invest in the greater Los Angeles, and our purpose being there to come and consider establishing businesses here in the city of Torrance. I believe the UK Consul General is scheduled to visit us at the end of this month, so it's a good opportunity. I think our team had a very good booth there. It stood out very well, and the Consul General of Australia and Germany actually went to our booth and signed their signature next to the picture when they were here visiting the city of Torrance. We have a good relationship with them. And I participated the day after a panel that's called Taiwan Selects LA, where about 25 companies, startups are looking at investing in LA. We're trying to bring them in the city of Torrance. So that's a couple of events that I participated in. I guess the final one was, I think some of the things we had earlier today, and I said I was going to make just a few comments. I think the election season, it's always a challenging season for all of us. And I think my ask is for all candidates, all members of the city, whichever that you are supporting, support with respect, support and campaign based on data and facts, and there's no need to vandalize or slander or commit acts of crime or theft, and just campaign. Let's let all of us campaign on the merits of our record and our policy, and I think and then let the residents make the decision on that. And that's my encouragement. I can, since I've been mayor, you see how I operate. I give each member of the city council as duly elected as much freedom. When you speak, I don't cut you off. I let you guys speak because I believe you have earned your seat here. And so that's my ask, that, let's, we only have about 28 or 27 days left till the election time. So, let's campaign based on our policies on record and what we have done or what we will do, and that's my ask. But we all have to decide what we do, and I've always given you that liberty. Okay. All right. With that, I'll take a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
All righty. Let's see. I hope it's right. The script is right this time. All right. I move that we adjourn tonight's City Council meeting to Tuesday, May 12th, 2026 at 5 p.m. for closed session in the Leroy J. Jackson Council Chamber.
Second.
Start voting, please. Your Honor, that motion carries with the council member Shake voting no.
I guess he's staying again. All right, you're going to miss Joe's birthday. All right, good night, everyone. It's 11:50.